Good afternoon, YouTube. It's Practical American here, and today I want to do a video on blades. Blades for different functions around the farm and in life in general. And these are just kind of a list of blades that I've found that fit into those categories for me. So first off, we'll just kind of go with an EDC type of a scenario. And so we'll start with this Leatherman Wingman. This is a fantastic little multi-tool. Does have the spring-loaded jaws in the pliers, has belt clip, has a basic loadout of utility tools. So it's stripped down from, say, the big version like the Surge, for example, but it's very lightweight and it's easy to carry every day. It has a knife and a pair of scissors as well, and just a very nice handy little tool. Because of the belt, or the pocket clip here, it fits in the pocket very well, stays in securely, and rides in my pocket every day everywhere I go. And for just an EDC tool, this has been a fantastic tool. I've been carrying that for close to 10 years now. Before that, I carried the Surge. The Surge is a great tool. It's heavy, it's robust, but I have to carry this on my belt. It doesn't fit well in my pocket. And so for me personally, this isn't my go-to for everyday carry. It just isn't. So I've actually put this into a vehicle kit, and that way it's very functional, have all the capabilities, but it's not an EDC. And then this is just an example of a good multi-purpose folder that's just a decent knife. It's a fully smooth blade, no serration. That's my preference. It's just a decent one. This is a Kershaw. Has some nice jimping up here in the back of the blade, and with the way that this point on the blade itself sticks down below the actual frame of the blade, or of the knife rather, it gives a nice hilt effect in there and gets your finger down in and is safely secured. And with that jimping, you have a very functional knife that you could cut or carve wood with, or whatever you would need to use it for without worrying too badly about getting up onto the blade. And it will strike on a ferrule rod. It's not as good as a carbon steel blade, but it does work. I've tested it just because I wanted to know. So that's kind of the EDC spectrum of things. Going from the EDC side to fixed blade multifunction knives, we'll go over to these here. So this one it's a cold steel. It's called the Roach Belly. You can see the style there. I like this knife a lot. There are some drawbacks to it, but it's very nice for that kind of multifunction simplicity for just a general purpose knife. It's got a nice lean edge. It has some nice jimping up in the back of the blade here. It has a pronounced rise to the blade from the handle, and there's a dead spot here of about 1/4 of an inch before the sharpness starts on the blade. With that jimping, you can get a hold of it and feel like you're hanging onto it quite well. Now, drawback to this is two things. One, this handle leaves some to be desired. It's not very full up here. It doesn't fill the hand real well. So that would be an improvement if there was a little bit better shaping and texture to this handle. Second, it's not full tang. So it's got its limitations, but within those limitations, quite a functional knife. For the price point, I have no complaints. It's a good knife. I purchased this from Blade HQ, and I believe I paid $13 a knife for that. I bought several of them. Another one that I bought the same day, I was just curious, I saw this. It's another cold steel, and these both lock into these almost too tight. You definitely don't have to worry about them, coming loose. But what you do have to worry about is that they don't pop apart, come apart too abruptly, and you literally cut yourself or something you didn't intend to. Especially if you're coming off your belt, you're trying to yard it up and it's about pulling your pants over your head. This is a Scandinavian design. The model is Finhawk. Much improved handle. A nice handle, fills the hand well. And again, this is just an example of that multi-purpose blade that I've found works well for me. And it's a consideration. It's got the Scandi grind. I don't believe is what they call that style of grind. Downside, no jimping. It would be nice to have some jimping in there so you can get a hold of that and get your thumb on the back of that blade. That's not in this knife. So that would be an improvement. The handle is very grippy, however, so that is an improvement. Doesn't have a real tall hilt right here to prevent you from getting out on that blade, and it's instantly sharp the second you hit the blade here. There's no dead zone. So, again, it's not perfect, but it does have its places, and overall for the price, I believe I paid about 17 or so for this one. I have no regrets about buying it, and it does do a decent job. This one, again, I bought this same day as those. This is a Spyderco. It very much like the roach belly in design of the blade. It's got a nice sweeping design to it, which is a style that I really like. Has a hole up here to be able to put a lanyard on, I suppose. Also in the back of the handle, it has one. It does have a bit nicer handle than the roach belly. It's thicker up here and just shaped a little better. It does fill the hand better. There's two drawbacks that I really don't like about this knife. One, it has no jimping here, and two, there's no pronounced hilt here to stop you from getting out on this blade. It's very thin. There is a little bit of a rise here to the sharpness of the blade, but it's very thin, and the sharpness starts at the very top of that rise. So if you aren't careful, if you were doing something where you were getting, having to push hard forward, you could get up on top of that and cut yourself. So that's a downside to this. The other thing is, handle's not real grippy, so again, it's not helping you to prevent going up on there very much. So that's a downside, but within reasonable parameters of daily use, this blade is very functional. And I've worked fish with this. I've filleted some fish with this, as I have also with these two. I've used it for general camp purposes and some basic kitchen purposes, paring knife type stuff, things like that. This roach belly works very, very well for that. So just a consideration of design and style that I have used and found that works well for me for that multi-purpose, belt knife. Going up a step in that same concept, this knife here has a much better sheath here, not holster, but sheath. It does appear to actually be Kydex. It secures very nicely. They put this nice push-off point for your thumb so you can control that very, very well. Again, it's a similar knife design, blade-wise, to this roach belly or this Spyderco. I like that long sweeping, design and a fine point. It's just something that I, like. It does have some jimping on this here. It's not extremely deep, but it is quite sharp, and it's relatively grippy. Could be a little bit better. It doesn't have a real pronounced hilt here, but it does have a dead zone in before you would get out into the sharpness of the blade. It does start sharp right there, but you have this dead zone in here. The handle is very long. I have large hands, not extra large, but large hands, and it comes out behind here and is It's fits the hand really well. It is full tang, obviously you can see that. And it does have a point back here for a lanyard to be secured, so you can do that. There is no forward hole, so to put this on if the person was wanting to make a spear out of this, you would have to go around here, which with this cutout right here you could do, and come across the jimping and tie it to a pole if a person wanted to make an improvised spear. So that it does have that functionality in my opinion. I processed my deer last year with, or field dressed I should say, my deer last year with this knife, and it did fantastic. Just another good knife that, and Real Steel is the brand on this. But a nice knife. I've been very happy with this one. And again, it's just a heavier version of these, so it fits that multi-purpose, belt knife category that I wanted to fill. So then moving on to the heavier knife side, we've got this Kershaw here, and basically it's their knockoff version of the Kukri, and it follows that same general design. It's a very thick spine, has a lot of forward mass, and does what the Kukri is notorious for. It cuts well, and it splits well, and it's just a great multifunction knife. The handle is superb. It is very grippy. It's rubber, so very grippy to your hand. It has a very nice hilt here. Comes down nicely, and so your fingers lock in behind. It catches up above the thumb in that part of the hand nicely. Has a lanyard hole in the front and in the rear, so you could, in theory, tie this on a pole, but also what it does is it allows you to have a wrist strap and a lanyard off the back if you wanted. So just a great knife. Has a nice heel swell here, so even if your hand slips back, if it was wet, for example, and you did slip on this rubbery texture, you've still got some swell here to help catch your hand into it. And I really like this. The sheath, the sheath could be better. I just haven't set up the stuff to do Kydex yet, and if I do get that accomplished here at some point, I would probably change this up to a Kydex. But this has been serviceable. I've had this knife for about 3 years, and it's been serviceable and acceptable. So that's like I say, that's a good all-round consideration. Of course, when you talk heavy knives or large knives, it's easy to forget about the value of the classic machete. Now this one, I have a couple of them that are this size. This one I found when I was doing some yard work at a property I lived at many years ago, and there was an old stump, and at the base of that stump, in a pile of bark, was this machete. And how long it had laid there, I don't know. It's very pitted and rough, but it's very thin. It's a very nice machete to use. Very functional. So depending on what you're using it for, a machete, especially these long blade machetes, are a fantastic way to trim hedge type stuff and light cutting like that, where just a sharp, fast blade is nice. And again, they made them with functional handles for what they were. So you can't, don't overlook the value of a good machete. They're just a great tool all around. So now shifting gears over to more of your meat processing and butchering, that kind of thing. Over the years, I've kind of developed a couple of things here that I like. Ironically, both the two sets of tools come from Outdoor Edge. Not hung on a company per se. They just happened to make the knives in the style I wanted. So there's this one here, which is their flip blaze, or flip and zip, or whatever they call the thing. And it is a really nice functioning knife. It's a little different. It's my understanding they don't make this particular model anymore, which it's too bad. The new ones have the snap-on replaceable sections for the blade. I prefer having a dedicated blade. I can sharpen. So this has a nice hollow grind, stays sharp phenomenally, cuts through tissue fantastic. This is for cutting the skin when you're field dressing. This knife is predominantly for field operations. It does the same job with this blade here as what they used to call the gut hook here. The difference is this slides between the tissue underneath the skin and the back of the skin. So you're not cutting the hair with this, you're cutting from behind. And so you don't have this balls up with hair and can be a real nuisance. And this doesn't do that. And you can slide along so fast and smooth, and it just opens that hide up so well, and does a really nice job of it. And then this blade does a great job of everything else. Overall size isn't too large, so it works out nice, and it's got a really nice grippy handle. Now, it doesn't have a great hilt. It does have some great jimping in here, so you can get your thumb into there, but there's not a whole lot down here to prevent you from getting down on the blade. So you got to really use that jimping to keep your hand, that blade pushed forward. If you were to be doing something where you were truly trying to, push some pressure in. But a great knife. And this is one that I've found works really well in that field dressing capacity. That being said, I field dressed with this last year. This didn't happen to be in the vehicle I was in, so I used this. So that opens that up. And then for just a general purpose, again, outdoor edge, but they make these nice sets. They make nice knives. They're not the top end knives when it comes to your processing style knives. They're not the greatest steel. My 420 stainless, which is not bad, but it's not the hardest of steels. So you do have to sharpen quite a bit. But they make this set, and they make several other sets. But this, Caper is a general purpose knife that works really well. The Skinner, it works really well for what it's designed for skinning. I actually use this Caper and the boning fillet knife as my two predominants, and I will do a lot of the work. If I've got two people working, for example, I'll give them the boning knife and I'll run the Caper because it works very well. And then the main butcher knife, which of course has so many applications. There's also shears that comes with this set that are really nice shears. They're in the dishwasher right now. And then it's had rib spreaders and a fork, and then this bone saw, which is leaves a lot to be desired. So we'll just not say much about that. It doesn't even cut wood well. So anyway, that's just something to consider. But kind of different genres of life that we live in the homestead world. We have our EDC stuff, the stuff that we carry every day with us, that type of thing. We have our general purpose belt knives, depending on what we're doing and what we're functioning at, that we can carry, and we need knives that work within that spectrum to the degree we desire. Heavy knives for the purposes of heavy knives. There's an application for them. And then, of course, most of us who live on the farm, we process our own animals. We process our own chickens. We do these things. We hunt. We process the game that we hunt. And so you need a set of knives that functions in that capacity, that you can afford, that you can maintain, and that do the job to at least a 90% level in that system. And I would say, personal experience, that this set of knives takes it way beyond 90%. We're like 98, 99% on these. The only thing I would desire would be, maybe a knife that held an edge a little bit longer, but sharpening isn't that big of a deal. So, that's kind of where we're at there. And then of course, you can't have knives without the ability to sharpen those knives and maintain them. And so, depends on where you're at, what you're doing. My immediate go-to is this little diamond stick, the Smith's. It's got a fine side here, a coarse side over here. It collapses back into itself. They make a bunch of different variations of design of these surfaces as far as You know, some that don't fold inside themselves and different things. I like these because I can put it away. It's pretty much, you know, protected. I can put it in packs. I can put it in the drawer in the kitchen. I can carry one of the glove boxes. You name it. If you're going to have blades, you got to be able to sharpen them. And then, of course, if you're really going for a fine edge, you've got the time to really work an edge out, or maybe you're repairing an edge on a blade. Then, of course, you need to go to the whetstone side of things. This is actually a really fine whetstone. I do have a coarser whetstone. This is 1,000 and a 6,000, and I have some that are a lot coarser than that. And depends what I'm trying to do. If I'm trying to, let's say, put a tip back on a knife, maybe I've broke the tip off somehow, which I have had that happen. I've actually taken those to a sanding wheel on a grinder, worked them slowly, got that shape back that I wanted, then taken them to a coarse stone, worked that edge back into them from there, and then finished them out on this fine stone, one 1,000 and the 6,000. This is a leather stripping board that came with that set. I have never used that. I don't generally take the time to go that far. Totally worth it if a person wants to take that time. I just don't. Then this compound came with it. It's pretty much, I think, something like Jeweler's Rouge or valve grinding compound to just make a little bit more abrasiveness on this. If a person has the time, works very well. I've used these compounds on leather in saddle shops years ago, doing leather cutting knives. They do very well. So anyway, that's kind of it, folks. That's what I wanted to cover on simple blades and concepts. Everybody's got their own flavor and how they like to work this. So this is just mine, not intended to be a you need to do it this way kind of video, but just a point of consideration that I have developed for me. This fits my 90% good enough category or better. And so there you go, folks. If you don't mind, if you like the video, hit the thumbs up. If you don't like the video, hit the thumbs down. And if you would, hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell notification over there. That way, at least you're telling YouTube to tell you that I've put a video up. Who knows in this day and age whether they're actually getting listed or not. So, folks, God bless and have a great day. Thank you.